Lakers offseason. They made a major coaching decision, hiring J.J. Redick to lead the purple and gold, but they didn't add any pieces in free agency, but did add Dalton Knecht and Bronny James in the draft. Seth, got to dive into this. Need you to break this down for me. What will be the biggest obstacle, for J.J. and the Lakers?
Well, their roster, first and foremost. I mean, like they did nothing to improve their roster in the offseason. You think about it, besides Dalton Knecht. I think the other thing is J.J. Redick. Look, J.J. Redick has a high basketball IQ, but coaching on a podcast and coaching in the NBA are two different things. You can talk Gortat action, you can talk Zoom action, you can talk Spain action, you can talk about, with Connect, we're going to run them on wide pin downs and DHOs. All those things are great, all right? But the reality is that there's so much more to coaching in the NBA than the X's and O's. And look, JJ is going to put in the time, but it's a different job. Now, he's hired a great staff. He's hired an experienced staff. But the obstacles he's going to have to deal with, managing his roster, dealing with adversity, dealing with back-to-backs, how do you manage your day? I think there's a lot more to it. It is easy on a podcast. You can have every single answer. You know what? You're watching film, it's really easy to say. When you're putting together a play on a napkin, it's great. But you know what? The other team is also going to do some things. And, JJ's inexperience in terms of dealing with all the other demands of being a head coach in the NBA. Remember, when you're a player, practice is over, boom, you go home.
Yeah.
When you're a coach, there's so much more on your plate that you have to deal with. I think he should have coached in the Summer League, not because it would have been a great learning. Well, it would have been a great learning experience. More, are you standing or you're sitting? All right, how are you going to use your assistant coaches? How are you going to interact with the officials? How are you going to approach the team prior to the game or at halftime? All those things are just different. The X's and O's, they take care of themselves if you have a good staff. But it's the other things, the in-time decisions you have to make throughout the game, throughout the season, dealing with adversity. I think that's going to be the biggest obstacle for JJ as he kind of better understands what it's like in terms of on a day-to-day basis to be an NBA head coach.
Okay, Courtney, before you jump in, I just want to reiterate, coaching on a podcast is very different than coaching in real life, and anyone can draw up plays on a napkin. Courtney?
Well, when Coach mentioned
thanks, Molly. I appreciate that.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone at home, heard your take.
I like what Coach said about dealing with adversity, and I'll take it a step further. How does J.J. Redick maintain his composure when dealing with adversity? I think you all know what I'm getting at here. Is he dropping F-bombs the way that he did in his introductory press conference? That wasn't a good look. I know some people look at that and say, oh, it's showing that he's a normal person. He's just like us. I am, a firm believer. Say what you want to say out there, but it wasn't a good look for somebody in that sort of position. The moves that he made to bolster his coaching staff, 37 years of NBA coaching experience between Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks. I thought that was a wise decision from the very jump, that he was surrounding himself with people who have done this. And frankly, it's that idea of surround yourself with people who are smarter than you and know more than you do. But what about navigating all of these unknowns that are going to be first-time things that he encounters this year in LeBron's 22nd season? How do you get in and out of a huddle? What do timeouts look like? Are coaches going to one side during a timeout? The players are going somewhere else. I think back to what happened in Milwaukee last year with Adrian Griffin. And then all of a sudden, he's got one coach going to talk to the players, and that didn't seem to sit well with him. And then that coach finds his way out of there. Like, how is he going to manage personalities? How is he going to manage his coaching staff? How is he going to manage the biggest personality of all in LeBron James, who at this age, at this part of his career, he probably feels he has the credence to take over whenever he wants to. And what if there's a game-defining decision in the final moments? Is it LeBron in the huddle giving direction, or is he actually deferring to J.J. Redick, who was his choice for this job? I don't think we'll know any of those answers until we see this play out in games, but preparing for that is something that I don't know if you can actually do, but anticipating having fail-safes in place to make sure that you can surround yourself with every option, A through B, A through F. If something happens, you've got an answer for everything. That's what I'd be spending the summer doing, getting ready for training camp, because this roster is not any better than it was from a couple months ago when they lost in 5 to the Denver Nuggets. I'd be working on more of the intangible things if I'm J.J. Redick.
I think the number one thing for me is gaining LeBron's trust, but not only that, but keeping LeBron's trust. That's pivotal in this whole situation when it comes to J.J. Redick being the head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers because, like Coach mentioned, we can talk about anything outside of the heat of the moment. But when the heat of the moment arises, how are you going to make the adjustments? What are you going to draw up? Are you going to be able to keep your composure? J.J. Redick played the game at a high level, right? He understands there are 82 games in a season. You might not be able to react to every single thing, but how do you get your messaging through? How are you going to define roles on this basketball team? And also, I want to know about the development of the players that, are outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis. Mm-hmm. And that's why I also believe it's pivotal that they brought in Scott Brooks, a guy who won an NBA championship as a player, went to an NBA Finals, losing to LeBron James and company when he was the head coach for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I love Nate McMillan. He was the head coach for the Atlanta Hawks. He is a no-nonsense guy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's going to be a guy that can tell the truth to players and make sure they stay on top of their thing. But for J.J. Redick, everything that's going on in his life right now is new. It's how he's going to be able to navigate that. But when we talk about also the biggest obstacle, it's the Western Conference getting better overall as a whole. We can't ignore that. They lost to Sacramento 4 times last season. 4 times. They went, I believe, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what they went against the Golden State Warriors. I think it was 2-2. Yep. But also the Clippers, I think they went 2-2 as well. The Western Conference isn't easy. You get a Ja Morant coming back. OKC just gotten better. We've seen what Minnesota was bringing to the table. Denver, in my opinion, may have taken a step back, but they still have the MVP and one of the best duos in the NBA as well. So I think collectively seeing so many other teams get better and the Lakers stay the same, that may hurt them.
Yeah. I'm curious where you were on that because I looked at it differently, more so that he's setting the table. Like, I don't care what any of you fools say about me. People have hated me since I was in college. He was one of the most hated players. That he's not going to let any of the headlines bother him.
That's great. You know what? That's great. You can address it in a different way. Look, you're the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. You're the head coach of one of the most greatest organizations in the history of sport, right? Carry yourself like you've been there, all right? You don't have to drop F-bombs to get your point across. And look, people say, well, look, being the head coach of the Lakers is not like being on your podcast just talking ball with the guys. It just isn't, all right? So carry yourself like you've been there before. I think, Harry, 2 things. Usually the head coach coaches his coaches. Right now in this situation, the assistant coaches will be coaching in a lot of ways the head coach. The second thing is making decisions in real time. There's a difference between pre-planning what you're going to say and actually seeing the game and then making decisions in real time. That's what he's going to have to be able to do. And then coming in and out of timeouts, drawing up plays. Courtney, you mentioned that. I think he's going to rely on Nate McMillan. I think he's going to rely on Scotty Brooks and Coach St. Jean to help him in those areas. And then, Harry, the last thing you said about the West is a monster. How many games is LeBron going to play? How many games is AD going to play? And by the way, the Lakers, who basically said, well, Lakers, if you become the head coach of the Lakers, they're going to always get free agents. They're always going to be in the conversation of the best free agents. Swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. That narrative is no longer the truth. Now, why? I don't know. Is it because they have a young first-time head coach? Is that because of LeBron? Who knows what it is? But for them to strike out in free agency and still have D'Angelo Russell on their roster, that is a problem.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. By the way, LeBron James agreed to a 2-year, $104 million deal.